Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how I plan out all the lessons for the school year. And when I say plan out all the lessons, I don't mean we're going to read this book on this day and this book on this day. That's not what I mean at all. But how are we going to fit it all in the time frame that I want and still have time for all the breaks with all the special unit studies? And how am I going to fit it all in and just, not feel stressed? This is a very flexible schedule in my opinion, and it's kind of the first year that I've ever done this. Since I have a high schooler, a sixth grader, a second grader, how are we going to get it all in? So let me explain more by showing you the spreadsheet that I created. If you are not a spreadsheet kind of girl, I'm sorry. I totally love spreadsheets. I love planning my whole life on a spreadsheet. So this is quarter one. So I have quarter presentation here. I have the next page is quarter two, quarter three, and quarter four. So this plan is kind of just like my initial stab at it to make sure to see how we're going to get all these lessons in, specifically for my son, really, and then maybe my daughter's math and language arts lessons. Because the Good and the Beautiful language arts has 120 lessons, so how am I going to get those in there and still do all the special things? But I would say this schedule is very flexible. This is just my first initial stab at it, and it's going to be like a rubber band in my opinion. I really just wanted it to give me an idea of a pace. So last year in my mom binder, I just printed out all the tables of contents, and I was going to check off each week so that I could get an idea of where we were. Well, I never kept up with that. It's just difficult for homeschool planning for some reason. I just don't want a lot of planning busy work. I'd rather have milestone checkpoints. So my checkpoints is the quarter. So let me explain more by showing you what I mean in my spreadsheet. Okay. So in my spreadsheet, I listed out all of the core subjects or things that I needed to keep track of and have the date here at the top. So I had originally wanted to get a lesson in here July 12th. I think we did that. I have their attendance on a different thing. But for science and history for grade school, I'm not really concerned about finishing a curriculum like I am maybe for math or for language arts. Those are the main curriculums that I really want to make sure we finish. And then for high school, because credits are determined by the number of hours that you've accumulated, it kind of is important that he get through all of his lessons. So this is really for him, and then where am I going to fit them in? I will caveat this by saying in a future video when I talk about the high school planning and how I helped my son plan so that he could be more independent, I made him a plan similar to this that just had his stuff on it but more. So I will go over that in a different video. But at the top I have the number of days of school that we're going to accomplish that week or what my goal is, and then of course our attendance will determine whether or not we actually did that. One lesson this day, one day of school this week, because we also did some exploring, and so on and so forth. And then I had these all be added up. This is under the total lessons column, but this number right here is actually the total number of days. Okay, so that way I know how many days of school, and you'll see back here on my quarter four, right now I have planned 175 days. But there are some things in here that are this week, 3 weeks, or 3 days, and my son could very well be doing a little bit extra here. So again, this is just a target. So I went through and just determined, okay, we're having a 5-day school week, but this was his first day of school. Again, don't pay attention. You guys, I told you this is super flexible. This spreadsheet is actually a little bit old, but this spreadsheet was my first draft. Like I said, it's very loosey-goosey because after I created it, printed it out and everything, I decided that I really wasn't going to have my daughters start until this week. So that's why I went ahead and circled what we actually did. I decided to do a slower start, so we did not start science or history or Who is God this week. We started with math and language arts only. And I did a similar thing with my son. So this was his first week of school. We did do stuff for 5 days, but he only did 3 days of math, 3 days of science. We did all 5 days of history because this is the curriculum that takes the longest. And we'll talk about that here in a second. And then 4 days of language arts, 4 days of Latin. And actually, he did not start Latin and language arts these days, but he and I on his schedule, I already fixed that. He's going to do that in another week. So this was just kind of the original idea. When are we going to get all this stuff done? So you have to start with, for each curriculum, they have a number of lessons, which is what I have here as the goal. Okay, so I wrote in here how many numbers of lessons is what we're doing. So for his math, I think, yeah, he has 134 math lessons he needs to get in. For science, he has 120. For his history, he has 130 lessons, his history curriculum, but he also has projects that go along with that, so this is probably actually smaller than what it actually is. His language arts, 120, and so on and so forth. So for my girls' history, this was when I was originally going to do the good and the beautiful history. It was 60 lessons. And then our science, for the unit studies that I had chosen, I had 59 lessons if we just did one a day. But I'm not worried about this as much for them. But for him, I needed to make sure that we hit our goal here. So what I did was, back to the beginning, I started at the top. The year plan that I showed you guys in that other video took into consideration how many days of school we're having, because you know, some of these weeks are special unit studies, so we won't be able to do every single subject during these weeks, but we might be able to do some. So I'll show you in December. So for December, we will have 5 full days of school. So down here I have special school day, which is my special units, and you'll see I've got 13 days for unit study here at the bottom. So that means during the school year, I'm sorry, this is really difficult to show you since the spreadsheet's so big, but also during that week, my son can still be doing 4 days of math, 4 days of math, 3 days of math, science, but his history and language arts, you can see he's only going to be doing a couple lessons there, a few lessons here, and none on this week. That way he can do some of the unit study with us. So that's kind of, we're doing 5 days of school, but we don't have to do every single subject on those days. I hope you're following me so far and this isn't like being really confusing, because it was not as hard to do as it may look. So let's just look back at the spreadsheet. Okay, so again, I started with that schedule that I showed you, that yearly plan, and how many days of weeks, or how many school days we're going to do each week, and I put that number at the top first. And then I went through my son's schedule and said, okay, which subjects does he really need to get the most of his first week? That's history. This is the curriculum where he has the most to do, in my opinion. So he needs to get started on it right away. And actually during this week, he may do a few extras in there, but I didn't want to plan it. But he and I both have an understanding. If you knock out a lesson during these weeks, that's just bonus. And then the same thing for my daughters. So like history and science, we will be starting that these weeks, and then 2 a day. And then at the end of the quarter, if this ends up as planned, I will know because they will be on this lesson. Okay? So this is like my goal that's going to show me for the quarter, am I behind the pace or am I ahead of the pace? So this is the grand total number of lessons that they should be on. So if I'm on lesson, for my girls, if by the end of the quarter, if they are on lesson 28 for language arts, then we are on pace to finish their language arts program. I will do another video about what my plans are for the end of each quarter, but this is just here so that I can write in dates and make any notes that I need to make here. So we have a lot of stuff going on. This curriculum here is something we're doing as a family. It's not during the school day. It's going to be at night once a week. So I do have that in here when we're going to start that. I wrote in all of our conference days, all the same things that are on my other calendar that I mentioned to you guys so that I can keep track of it down here. And then I decided I am going to start keeping track of PE. I've never really done that before, but my state does require that they have PE. So I don't know, we're just going to see how all this tracking stuff goes. I really don't like tracking all of it too much. Just to give you another idea, so up here, let's see, Thanksgiving week, we're only going to do 2 days of school. So my son will do math and science that week. He's not going to do history because we might do something special. He'll do 2 days of language arts. He will not do Latin. So the way his Latin curriculum is made up is actually 4 units per lesson. So I did kind of go through there and make sure like we were ending the quarter, like finishing a lesson, and that he wasn't ending it with 3 days of a week done with 1 lesson to go. So I did go through and make sure all of that was correctly done. He should be on lesson 64 by the second semester in order to be on pace to finish when we want to finish. So this week, I really wanted to go to Teach Them Diligently, and I planned like, oh, this is when it usually is, Teach Them Diligently in Nashville. So we'll plan a short week so we can all go there together, and then they moved it to May. So I just went ahead and kept this little break in here, just kind of like a little spring break where we're only doing 3 days of school. And really, my son's only going to be doing math and then a couple days of this. So that way he can do something else with us, I guess. So this is our resurrection week. I did something really awesome with my kids last year. I made up my own unit study. And that week was like the most blessed week I have ever had with my kids. So we are definitely doing that again. My own personal unit study. I'm sure that maybe I'll make a video about it at some point before Easter in case you guys wanted to do the same. But that whole week is kind of just focused on Christ and the events of the resurrection. But my son should also probably get some math done because we can't let that go too far. And my daughters will also do a couple days of math, and we will do a couple days of our Who is God curriculum that we're finishing this year. We will have time to conference and get caught up on some stuff. It's mostly going to be the special unit study, and then the next week, the Monday after Easter, will also be a special unit study day. So it will be 5 days of school still, but special unit study day. And then these subjects will only be 4 days, 5 days of history, so on and so forth. Kind of just finagled numbers around here. So this week is one of those weeks where I have a child with a birthday, so we're going to take some days off. It's kind of like our fall break week. I like having a break in here. I like having flexibility on the Thanksgiving week. I like having flexibility in December to not have to do every single curriculum. And honestly, like not having to do every single curriculum, every single day, every time we're doing school is what helps me stay sane. Because those school days can be long, but you still have to be responsible and you still have to get it in, and you still want to take breaks, and you still want to end in May. So I just feel like having some weeks in there where you're not doing every curriculum, I already have it planned out. I can see I really can complete it, and also have flexibility in my schedule to do other things. It is possible, and I just proved it on this spreadsheet. If you are just completely like, you don't like the inside of my brain, I'm sorry.
It scares me sometimes too.
But that's how it goes. If this schedule sounds awesome to you, give me a thumbs up. I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have questions. Bye.